Would you put a 13-foot-long python in your mouth? Now, what if it was the difference between life and death? Because that's exactly what one man, Ben Nyambe from Kenya, had to do in the month of April 2009 while tending to his crops on a farm that he managed for the last 10 years. He was doing what he did every weekend, walking the farmlands, checking over everything, making sure it was all going according to plan, when he stepped on something spongy. Almost immediately, his leg became entangled in the body of a 13-foot-long python. It then pulled Ben to the ground and began wrapping itself around his entire body. Now, pythons are known to kill and eat goats, sheep, and even kangaroo. So Ben likely seemed like not much more of a challenge to this python, as it pinned his left arm to his torso and began constricting him, squeezing him extremely hard. Now, the only thing Ben could do at this point to somehow fight back was to bite this python, and that's exactly what he did. He sank its teeth into its tail as hard as he could, but this only made the python start moving and dragging his body along with it towards a nearby tree. Now, when they got to this tree, understand, Ben, he's been working hard labor on this farm for the past decade. He is by no means a weak man, and with his one free arm, he wraps it around the trunk of this tree and holds on for dear life so that he cannot continue being dragged by this ginormous python. He would go on to hold on to this tree trunk for nearly an hour before eventually he just couldn't hold on anymore. His grip weakened, and the python pulled him free. So then the python drags him to an even larger tree, not far from this one, and actually drags his body up, holding his torso in the middle of its body, drags him up 10 feet high into the branches of this tree. And so as they're up there, it's likely believed that the python thought this prey has been sufficiently weakened, and now it's time to unhinge its jaw, which it did. It unhinges it, and it's hanging, which is a terrifying sight, I'm sure, for Ben. And now it plans to bite him and consume him whole. And so as Ben sees it preparing to do this, he has to think quick and uses all his might, all his will to survive to get his other arm free. And he does. And then he rips off his t-shirt and wraps it as fast as he can around the head and face of this huge python, making it not only unable to see Ben, but to bite Ben and attack him. So as Ben is holding this shirt tightly around this python's head, he uses his other free hand to reach down in his pocket and pull free his cell phone, where he calls for help. Not long after that call, not only police, but villagers also, who heard news of this, come running down to this tree all at once to help Ben. And what they do is they get a rope and throw it up there to him, which he grabs and catches and wraps around the body of this python. And so now 2 police officers on the bottom begin yanking this rope as hard as they can until finally they yank this python down out of this tree, taking Ben along with it, and they both come crashing to the ground. Once they're on the ground, police and villagers all put their hands on this python and pull with all their might until finally they unwrap it from Ben's body and save Ben. This attack in total lasted roughly 3 hours, and the python was caged shortly after until the following morning, where rangers returned to the preserve to further examine this python and just get a better look at him, only to find that this cage was empty, and somehow the python had escaped, and it was never caught.